The landscape of global intelligence is, well, it's always shifting, isn't it? But there's one agency that seems to be making waves consistently with its adaptability, its impact. The main Directorate of Intelligence of Ukraine, the HUR.
Yeah, the HUR, they really do seem to be quite dynamic.
Feels like they're often a step ahead sometimes.
Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. We've pulled together quite a bit of information to really try and understand this key Ukrainian intelligence service.
Right.
Our goal really is to get past the headlines, uncover how they operate, their history, and maybe what makes their recent actions so noteworthy.
And for you listening, we know you want to get smart on this quickly. You want the essentials without drowning in data. So we've done the sifting to bring you a clear, structured look, hopefully with some memorable details.
Hopefully.
Okay, so to start, where does an organization like the HUR actually come from? What's the origin story?
Well, the HUR, it's Ukraine's military intelligence service. And crucially, it's part of the Ministry of Defense, not the general staff itself. That's an important distinction.
Okay.
Its roots are really in the collapse of the Soviet Union. After Ukraine became independent, it inherited the intelligence assets from the old Soviet armed forces military districts that were on its territory.
So Kyiv, Odessa.
Kyiv, Odessa, and the Carpathian military districts, exactly. These were all part of the Soviet GRU, their main military intelligence directorate.
So they weren't starting from absolute zero. They had this existing infrastructure, some personnel, presumably.
Right, but there were definitely some growing pains, in those early days of independence.
I can imagine. What sort of issues?
Well, initially, back in February '92, Ukraine set up an intelligence directorate under the general headquarters. Then, just a few months later in September, a presidential decree created another body, the Strategic Military Intelligence Directorate, but this one was under the Ministry of Defense.
Two separate agencies. That sounds messy.
It was. Having two bodies reporting differently, it just created inefficiencies, could lead to crossed wires,
Yeah, it hinders building a unified system, I bet.
Precisely. It really hampered things. So it wasn't until July 1993 that a presidential order finally merged them. They formed the main Military Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense.
Okay, consolidation.
Yes, and then it got renamed slightly in April '94 to the name we know now, basically. The main Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, or HUR.
And then there was that law in 2020.
Ah, yes, a really significant step. In 2020, the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, passed the law on intelligence agencies of Ukraine that formally granted the HUR this special government authority status, really solidified its legal footing and operational independence.
Right, so a journey of consolidation, then formal legal status. Now, something that really jumps out when you look into the HUR is their emblem. It's quite, well, it's assertive, isn't it?
Yes, it's not your typical bland government seal, that's for sure.
Not at all.
The current one, adopted back in 2016, shows an owl plunging a sword directly into a map representing Russia.
An owl with a sword aimed at Russia. Okay, yeah. Unpack that for us. There's got to be symbolism there.
Oh, absolutely. It's very intentional, very layered. The owl itself is widely seen as a direct, almost you could say tongue-in-cheek reference to the Russian GRU's Spetsnaz emblem.
Which is a bat, right?
Exactly, a bat. And owls, biologically, are natural predators of bats. So visually, it's deliberately provocative, a real statement piece.
Wow, okay, that is pointed. And what about the motto? I saw that mentioned too.
Equally interesting. The motto is in Latin. Sapiens dominabitur astris, which translates to the wise will rule the stars.
The wise will rule the stars.
And this is generally believed to be, again, an intentional echo or counterpoint to the Russian GRU's motto. Theirs, from Russian, is something like, only the stars are above us.
So the HUR is saying wisdom trumps that cosmic claim.
That seems to be the implication. It's symbolic superiority wisdom over perhaps brute force or perceived status. It's clever.
So it's not just intel gathering. There's a whole psychological warfare aspect to their public image. Did this emblem get much reaction?
Oh, it certainly did. It caused quite a stir, especially as you'd expect among Russian journalists, commentators, politicians. People like Dmitry Rogozin apparently reacted quite strongly. It definitely achieved its goal of making a statement.
Understood. So moving beyond the symbols, what's the actual day-to-day job? What are the HUR's core responsibilities? What are they tasked with doing?
Well, their mandate is really extensive. It covers a huge range of areas. Our sources point to operations in the military sphere, obviously, but also political, technical, economic, Signals intelligence, informational, and even environmental spheres.
Environmental intelligence. For a military agency, that seems a bit less common.
It does, but it reflects a more modern understanding of national security, doesn't it? Where environmental factors, resource scarcity, climate change impacts can have major strategic implications, even for military ops.
True. So what are the core missions then?
Well, the fundamentals are there. Extracting intelligence, analyzing it, processing it, and getting it to the right people disseminating it. The classic intelligence cycle.
Standard procedure.
Exactly. But it goes further. They're tasked with actively promoting Ukraine's national interests, identifying and, crucially, countering external threats to national security.
So proactive, not just reactive.
Very much so. Also, participating in the fight against terrorism and other major criminal activities that could threaten national security, cooperating with foreign intelligence partners, which is vital, and carrying out other activities defined by law for national security. It's a broad and very active remit.
Sounds like they're involved in a lot more than just traditional espionage. How do you structure an organization to handle all that? What's the internal setup?
Right. So at the top, you have an executive office overseeing everything. Below that, there are 5 key directorates that handle the main functions.
All right, what are those?
You've got the Strategic Intelligence Directorate, likely focused on the long-term picture, forecasting threats, opportunities. Then the Armed Forces General Staff Intelligence Support Directorate, much more tactical, feeding intel directly into current military operations.
Makes sense. Strategic and tactical arms.
Then there's the Information Support Directorate, handling things like PR, maybe psychological operations, potentially cyber intelligence too. The Personnel Policy Directorate, managing people, training. And the Logistic Directorate, handling resources, infrastructure, keeping the lights on.
A structure for both the big picture and the immediate needs. And what about underneath those directorates? Any key departments?
Yeah, several crucial departments support these directorates. There's internal security protecting the agency itself, a planning department for future ops, automation and communication absolutely vital for modern intel gathering and secure comms.
Technology backbone.
Definitely. Then economic and finance managing the money. And an information and state secret protection department keeping sensitive data secure. Each piece plays a critical role in making the whole thing work effectively.
A complex, layered structure. Necessary, I suppose, for such a wide scope. Now, when we think military intelligence, we often picture people on the ground, right? Reconnaissance, special ops. What kind of combat units does the HUR actually command or work with?
This is an interesting area. The sources make a distinction here. There are field reconnaissance units that are directly part of the HUR structure, and then there are many more reconnaissance units that belong to the wider armed forces of Ukraine, the AFU, but obviously work very closely with the HUR and feed intelligence into it.
Okay, so HUR's own units first.
Before the full-scale invasion in 2022, the HUR's main dedicated field recon unit was the 10th Separate Special Purpose Unit. Its designation was MUN A2245, based in Kyiv.
Special purpose unit. So special forces.
Essentially, yes. It consisted of a battalion headquarters and 3 special purpose companies. That indicates a dedicated in-house capability for direct action and specialized reconnaissance.
A core SF element within the HUR itself, and then AFU units.
The sheer number of reconnaissance units subordinated to the regular AFU gives you a sense of the scale of intel gathering across the entire military structure. You've got the 49th Reconnaissance Training Center, then multiple dedicated battalions, the 54th, 74th, 129th, 130th, 131st, 143rd.
Wow, quite a few.
And that's not all. There's the 120th Reconnaissance Regiment, the 132nd Air Assault Reconnaissance Battalion, and the 140th Marine Reconnaissance Battalion. It's a really extensive network spread across different branches and areas, constantly feeding information back.
A huge intel gathering apparatus embedded right into the conventional forces. And then there are the Spetsnaz units, the special forces groups. Where do they fit? Are they HUR or AFU?
Many of these Spetsnaz units operate under the operational control of the AFU, but they often conduct missions based on intelligence provided by the HUR. And they have some very evocative names.
Yeah, I saw the list.
Well, you have units like the Shaman Battalion, makes you think of unconventional warfare, maybe?
Yeah.
Then the Special Purpose Unit Kraken, perhaps maritime focus. The Arton Unit, Revanche Tactical Group. Special Purpose Unit Timor.
Timor came up later, didn't it?
It did, yes. We'll get to that. Also, the 2nd Special Operations Detachment, Bratstvo Battalion, Nobody Battalion, Stuna Battalion, Chimera Unit, Special Purpose Arata Battalion, Black Winter Group.
Black Winter. Sounds like cold weather specialists.
Could be. Then Paragon Company Detachment, the Volunteer Reconnaissance Battalion, Sonechko, Special Purpose Unit Vidar, Kabul 9,
Kabul 9. Interesting name given recent events.
possibly. Defense Intelligence Aviation, so aerial recon. Special Purpose UAV Unit Wings, highlighting drones. And the Special Purpose USV Unit Group 13, pointing to unmanned surface vessels, the naval drones. It's a really diverse mix, suggesting specialized roles.
Absolutely. Those names paint a picture. And the sources mentioned an international legion linked to the HUR. How does that work?
Yes, the International Legion of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. It's quite unique. It's made up of volunteers from reportedly over 50 countries. Many have prior military experience.
Foreign volunteers fighting under HUR.
They function as a specialized unit within the broader International Legion framework, but specifically part of the HUR-MO, Ministry of Defense. They've apparently been involved in key battles and operate with significant autonomy. Interestingly, they seem to rely heavily on self-funding or donations for a lot of their equipment.
That's fascinating. A global dimension to their force structure, funded partly through donations. The sources also briefly mentioned Tactical Group Athena and Ronin Team.
Correct. Tactical Group Athena and the Ronin Team, which was described as a sniper and reconnaissance company. Just further examples of these specialized combat formations operating under, or at least closely associated with, the HUR, each likely brings a specific skill set to the fight.
It's an incredibly diverse and, frankly, complex ecosystem of units. Okay, let's pivot a bit. Let's talk about some recent HUR activities that have really caught the public eye. The Kabul airlift in 2021, for instance, that was quite something.
Absolutely. August 2021, Afghanistan collapsing rapidly. HUR Special Forces undertook what was really a critical mission, both humanitarian and strategic. They used Ukrainian Air Force IL-76 transport planes.
The big cargo plane.
Right, from the 25th Transport Aviation Brigade. They flew multiple sorties into Kabul to get people out, not just Ukrainians, but citizens of other countries too, right in the middle of that chaos as the Taliban took over.
That must have been an incredibly dangerous, unpredictable environment to operate in.
Extremely challenging, yes. Reports indicate they completed 6 flights in total, evacuating over 700 people. And what's really remarkable is the detail that the Special Forces teams weren't just waiting at the airport. They were reportedly making multiple trips into the city each day to find people, escort them through the chaos back to the airport, onto the planes. Real bravery and operational skill on display.
A serious test of their capabilities under immense pressure. Then, more recently, there have been these reports of HUR activities much further afield in Sudan.
Yes, this is quite extraordinary. Starting around September 2023 and apparently continuing into March 2024, there were credible reports, including from major outlets like CNN, suggesting that Ukrainian special forces were likely behind a series of drone attacks in Sudan.
Drone attacks. Against who?
Against the Wagner-backed Rapid Support Forces, the RSF. These attacks reportedly involve things like modified commercial drones, DJI Mavics, FPV drones adapted for dropping munitions or for kamikaze attacks.
So Ukraine actively engaging Wagner elements or their proxies in Africa.
It certainly appears that way, and it fits with a public statement made by the HUR chief, Kirilo Budanov, back in May 2023. He vowed to, quote, destroy Russian war criminals anywhere in the world, wherever they are.
A very direct statement.
Indeed. And by March 2024, reports specifically confirmed that HUR operators from that Tamir unit we mentioned earlier were actively involved in these operations against Wagner and the RSF in Sudan. It shows a significant operational reach and a commitment to that vow.
A striking demonstration of projecting power, or at least influence, far beyond their own borders. Now, closer to home, there was also a mention of a vehicle donation. Seems minor compared to Sudan, but maybe significant in other ways.
Yes, in January 2024, the HUR received a snatch Land Rover SUV. The interesting part is that it wasn't a government procurement. It was a donation from volunteers linked to a British-Ukrainian group called Driving Ukraine.
So highlighting that international civilian support network again.
Exactly. It shows the level of grassroots support and international collaboration they benefit from, even for things like vehicles. Every bit helps, I imagine.
No doubt. Now, probably the most startling recent claim, the one that really made headlines, the alleged downing of a Russian Su-30 fighter jet by a naval drone. That sounds like something out of science fiction.
It is a truly remarkable claim, yes. On May 2nd, 2025, this is very recent, the HUR announced that one of their Magura V-5 naval drones, an unmanned surface vessel, had successfully shot down a Russian Su-30 fighter jet.
Oh, with what?
Using an R-73 air-to-air missile apparently mounted on the drone. This allegedly happened about 50 kilometers west of Novorossiysk over the Black Sea. The HUR claimed it was the first time ever a maritime drone had downed a crewed aircraft.
An air-to-air missile launched from a sea drone. If that's confirmed, that changes things.
It absolutely would. A huge shift in naval and aerial warfare tactics, demonstrating incredible new capabilities for unmanned systems. Reports suggest the 2 crew members of the C-30 ejected and were picked up from the sea by a civilian ship. If the HUR's account is accurate, this is potentially paradigm shifting. A sea drone becoming an anti-air platform against a modern fighter jet.
Truly groundbreaking stuff. Wow. Okay, so from the owl emblem to operations in Sudan to potential drone-on-jet combat, this is clearly not your grandfather's intelligence agency. It's incredibly modern, adaptable.
Definitely seems that way.
But it's crucial to remember, there's still a state agency. They operate within a legal framework, right? What does that look like for the HUR?
Yes, absolutely. Their operations aren't happening in a vacuum. They're grounded in a pretty comprehensive body of Ukrainian law and presidential decrees.
Such as?
Well, the sources list a wide range, the Constitution of Ukraine, naturally. Laws on national security, defense, intelligence activities specifically, military duties, civil service, international treaties Ukraine is part of, counterterrorism laws, counterintelligence laws, laws governing operational and investigative work, state secrets protection, and also laws providing social and legal safeguards for service members and their families.
Solid legal basis.
And on top of the laws, there are numerous presidential decrees, things outlining national security strategy, military security concepts, democratic civilian oversight of the security sector, command and control structures for the armed forces, interagency cooperation protocols. It's a robust framework designed to ensure their actions are conducted within defined boundaries and subject to oversight. It reflects Ukraine's commitment to rule of law, even in these critical security areas.
Good to know. So a strong legal underpinning for all this activity. Now, who's actually been in charge over the years? Who has led the HUR through its evolution?
There's been a succession of directors since '92, each bringing their own background. The list gives a sense of the agency's development. Lieutenant General Oleksandr Skopolsky was first, '92 to '97. He actually came from a KGB background, suggesting maybe an early focus on using existing expertise to build the new service.
Interesting start.
Then Colonel General Ihor Smeshko, '97 to 2000. He later got a PhD in national defense, maybe indicating a move towards professionalization, strategic thinking. After him, Colonel General Yevhen Marchuk, 2000 to 2003, a graduate of the Soviet General Staff Academy, so continuity of high-level military strategic thought.
Military focus continuing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then Colonel Rekhamrisha, Oleksandr Halaka, 2003 to 2008. His background was air defense and law, perhaps broadening the expertise mix. Lieutenant General Viktor Hvazd, 2008 to 2010, educated at top military colleges, including a military diplomatic academy, emphasizing strategy and international relations. Major General Serhiy Hamaiza, 2010 to 2014, another military diplomatic academy grad.
A lot of diplomatic and strategic training in the leadership.
Seems so. Then Major General Yuri Pavlov held the post briefly in 2014, right after the initial Russian aggression started, until July 2015, a critical time. He was followed by Lieutenant General Valery Kondratyuk, 2015 to 2016, then Major General Vasyl Burba from 2016 to 2020, overseeing that period of significant adaptation, the new emblem, etc. And currently, since August 2020, the director is Lieutenant General Kirilo Budanov. He's been leading during this period of intense conflict and, well, remarkable innovation we've been discussing. It's quite a diverse lineage of leadership.
It really is. And the sources also mentioned a couple of other notable members.
Yes, Maxim Shapoval, a significant figure who was tragically killed, and Andrei Yusov, who is currently the head of public relations for the HUR. He plays that crucial role of communicating what the agency is doing or what it wants known to the public and the world.
Right, the public face. Finally then, to place the HUR in the wider context, who do they work with? Who are their main counterparts, both inside Ukraine and internationally?
Domestically, they work very closely with Ukraine's other key intelligence bodies, the Foreign Intelligence Service, the SCRU, the Security Service of Ukraine, the SBU, and naturally various other military intelligence units within the AFU structure. It's about a coordinated national effort.
Makes sense. And abroad.
Internationally, they engage with a wide range of counterparts. The list includes, obviously, the main intelligence directorate of the Russian General Staff, the GRU, though that relationship is clearly adversarial now. But also partners like France's Military Intelligence, DRM, India's Defense Intelligence Agency, Indonesia's Strategic Intelligence Agency, BAIS, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and undoubtedly many others.
So cooperation and conflict on the international stage.
Exactly. These international partnerships are vital for sharing intelligence, collaborating on counterterrorism, getting different perspectives on global threats. It firmly places the HUR within that global intelligence community.
So summing up,
Mhm.
we have an agency born from Soviet remnants, forged through consolidation, legally empowered, with this striking symbolism, a really complex internal structure, a diverse array of combat units, including international volunteers, and involved in some truly remarkable high-profile operations from Kabul to Sudan to potentially shooting down jets with sea drones.
That about covers it. This deep dive really offers, I think, a focused shortcut to understanding just how dynamic and, frankly, increasingly prominent this intelligence agency has become. It's evolved rapidly from those post-Soviet beginnings into a modern, adaptable force that's actively shaping events, not just reacting to them.
It certainly seems so. And that leaves us with a final thought, really, for you listening. When you consider the HR's agility, how quickly they've adopted cutting-edge tech like drones in really novel ways, and their proven willingness to operate far beyond Ukraine's borders. What does that suggest about the future of intelligence operations worldwide?
Hmm, a big question.
How might this blend of technology, unconventional tactics, and sheer proactivity redefine the security landscape in the years ahead? Something to mull over, perhaps by digging into some of the sources we touched on, or just keeping an eye on this fascinating, evolving story.